So, Michael, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. We are honoring your movie for the Movie Guide Awards, and we love what you've done with the documentary.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to be nominated.
So, what was the process of getting this made and kind of, the push to do it?
Well, like lots of documentaries, it was many years in the making. And it started because I had some mutual friends with Justice Thomas. This was several years ago. And even then, Justice Thomas was getting tired of having his story told by people who didn't agree with him, who were effectively his enemies and were presenting a distorted picture of his work and his life. So I met with him. I didn't know that much about him. I remember the contentious hearings, and that was really about it. But having met him, I realized right away that he had a great personal story and was a great teller of that story. So right away, I wanted to do the film, and it evolved over time. I mean, initially, it was going to be more of a traditional documentary with many interviews and many points of view. But over time, I thought it was better to let Clarence Thomas tell his story directly. And as you know, he looks right at the audience, right in the camera, and tells his story in his own words of his entire life from the beginning to today.
But what I loved about this movie, for a documentary, it's got a tremendous amount of jeopardy, which is what drives the movie. Finding Nemo, it's, can you find Nemo? I mean, the Avengers, can Thanos be defeated? And it's got the hero, which is Clarence Thomas, constantly running into obstacles. The hero in a great movie has to lose, like the Avengers, before he wins, rock, whatever else. So I teach this, and I've been teaching it for years. I was head of a department at Berkeley. So did you intend to have so much jeopardy and so much, dramatic structure to the movie? It's very dramatic.
Well, that's what I mean by we sensed right away that he had a great life story. I mean, you can be a great man and not have a great life story. You surely can be a great thinker and have spent your entire life in your library. But you are quite right, Ted. He encountered lots of obstacles, huge obstacles, and many forces arrayed against him, as in a classic drama. And there were many turning points. So it was not always the same. The obstacles changed, his life evolved. So it really did become, it is in the form, I think you're quite right, of a classic story. So, and a great story. And it's a fundamentally American story of someone going from the segregated South and dire poverty to the highest court in the land. An amazing story on lots of levels.
Of course, the high point is the hearings, and who's in charge of the hearings at that time, and his muddled question. But when Clarence Thomas says this is a high-tech lynching, that's true of a lot of things going on today, which was a very brave thing to say in the documentary.
That's right. That's right. He, in a way, the things that happened to Clarence Thomas were the first of things that now we've gotten way more used to. But you're right. He felt that all the opposition he experienced in the South from racists, from segregationists, were nothing compared to the opposition he experienced from liberals who opposed him during the nomination and even before. So that's right. It's very dramatic, and we try to build to that. It is kind of the climax of the film, although lots of people rightly are very moved by the early part of his story. I mean, I'd say especially younger people. Ted, you and I are closer to the same age, and we remember the hearing, and it is very dramatic, and in a way it's the climax. But I think all the opposition he faced earlier was very relevant, coming from really dire poverty, his mother, growing up in Pinpoint, having Geechee Gullah being his first language, and then kind of moving to Savannah, where he experienced dire poverty with not enough to eat, cold in the winter, left by his mother to wander the streets, kind of lost until she brought him to his grandfather, who raised him and gave him good values, biblical values, as he says in the film. Brought him to these nuns and went to parochial school. They also confirmed those values, and he was, as you know, on track to be admitted to be a priest and one of the first African-American priests in Savannah, only to suddenly decide, after experiencing some racism at the seminary, that he lost his vocation and becoming a radical, and then to shift away from that. So it's full of these dramatic twists and turns.
it's an amazing turnaround and a great point for the third act of the movie.
That's right. It's a return to faith in Clarence Thomas's case. It's going back to the values that his grandfather and the nuns instilled in him. But it was a hard journey, and to become a conservative after, feeling race and racism explained everything, sympathetic to the Black Panthers, feeling that his grandfather was a sucker, and then coming around is a great story. I too was on the left when I was growing up, so I too relate to that shift on Clarence Thomas's part. But I think it's an amazing thing, and he did not have a cohort that moved right with him. He thought it through himself by thinking about affirmative action and busing and the issues of the day. So I think it's an amazing story and an amazing kind of intellectual achievement as well as a personal drama.
This is a movie that we'd like to honor because we'd love for younger audiences to see it. The teenage realm of, in history classes, they should be watching it, is kind of what our thought, because it would really help them to understand, a good story of triumph over hardships.
Absolutely. And, we were in movie theaters for a while. We were nationally broadcast on PBS. And, now we're been released digitally, on many platforms. Amazon canceled us, but it's still available. And you can go to our website, manifoldproductions.com, and find out where it's available. But we particularly want to get it into schools, per your point. And I think especially in Black History Month, which is why it's ironic Amazon canceled us during Black History Month. I mean, I think it is very important to have that story out there. Young people are being handed documentaries and material that relate to reparations and Black Lives Matter and George Floyd and many other things, but not the Clarence Thomas view of the world. So we think at least they should get one moment where they get to see a different attitude towards race, somebody who doesn't want to define himself as a victim and has and is proud of America and where he came from. I mean, I think it's very worth seeing. I agree with you. I think the school aspect is very important and the young people aspect is very important.
It's unfortunate that it's, they want one voice now, and the greater voices is better to have all the different perspectives instead of just the one. It's their only one viewpoint on it. So.
Well, that's right. I mean, I have run media organizations, and I like to say the media was biased when I was growing up, where they would present the viewpoint they agreed with and the one they didn't, and they would give better information and lean towards the one they agreed with. And now only the one they agree with is there. And they would just as soon eliminate the others entirely. And I think that's a dangerous thing for America. A democratic republic like America needs vibrant discussions with many viewpoints. And this is a dangerous moment, I think.